Hey, in this video, we're going to start looking at some words, some definitions that we're going to need in order to really understand algebra. So basically the building blocks of algebra. So the first thing that we're going to look at in this video is an operation. All right, so you may have heard of an operation, maybe not, but for sure you've been using operations forever. So whenever you do something in math, let's say you're adding, let's say you're subtracting, these are operations. So what are our four most common operations? Well, the first one is addition, and the sign for that is just a plus sign. The next one, as you probably guessed, is subtraction. The following one, multiplication. And you probably guessed it, the fourth one that we use quite often is division. And that's the most common sign for that. All right, so those are operations. We've been using them forever. I think you know what they are. You just needed to see them to get a refresher. So the next thing that I really wanted to talk about is variables. So what exactly is a variable? All right, so a variable is a letter or a symbol, but I'll just say letter for this case, but it's a letter or a symbol. And not just any old letter. It's a letter that's used to represent a number. Oops, there we go. So for example, if I'm going to work $10 per hour, if I'm going to earn $10 per hour, and I want to know how much I earn in the course of several hours, I don't know how many hours. It's an unknown number of hours. If that's the case, then we can use a variable to represent our unknown. So for example, we would have here 10 times an unknown, so 10 times x. All right, so that's not an X, that's an H, but that's okay. So because we don't know what the number of hours is, then that is our variable. We are using a letter to represent that unknown. All right, so now that you know what variables are, you know what operations are, and I'm pretty sure you know what numbers are, we are now ready to define what we like to call an expression. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, so an expression, I think of an expression as a phrase, like when you're saying something, you're saying a phrase, a series of words strung together. Well, in math, an expression is a series of other stuff strung together, not words, but other stuff. What are these other things? Well, maybe you guessed it. These other things usually include an operation. It may include some numbers. My screen shrunk, that's okay. And it could possibly include variables. All right, so if you are stringing together operations, numbers, variables, or some combination of these three things, then you have a mathematical expression. So for example, I could have 4x. That is an expression because I have 4x, which actually means, you may or may not know this if you don't see the operation between, there is a multiplication sign. So I have a variable, a number, and an operation there. I strung them together, and here we have an expression. But we don't have to have all three. So for example, if I had 7 plus 2, I don't have any variables in there, but that's also an expression, and it's totally fine. If I had, let's say I just had a variable, let's say p, that is also a mathematical expression. So any combination of these three things without any extra things added in there would be an expression. All right, so now that we know what an expression is, now we can do some stuff with it. Okay, so here we are being asked to evaluate the expression. And evaluate means exactly what it sounds like. evaluate, find the value of. So we're going to find the value of this expression, and so we know that x is equal to 6. That's kind of important, and that y is equal to 12. And we know that we're trying to find the value of the expression y minus x. Now again, y is equal to 12, so we can put that there in place of y. It's called substitute. So we are substituting y in place of 12 in place of y minus, and now it's time to substitute the 6 in place of the x, and now it's just a regular subtraction, which we can do with our eyes closed, and we get 6. And that's how you evaluate an expression. All right, let's try to do something else with our expressions. Okay, so now our two worlds are going to combine. What two worlds, you're asking? Well, the world where we speak English and we talk about things in English, and the world of math, where we're talking about things with symbols and numbers and all that other great fun stuff. So we have to be able to transfer or translate from English to math and from math to English. Yes, math is a language. All right, and in order to do that, we have to understand words that we can use in place of our operations. So what do I mean by that? Let me explain. So when you are adding something, so for addition, there are certain words that often we use in place of addition. So for example, can you think of any? Let's see. So for example, perhaps plus. Yeah, so this plus that's just addition. Wow, why is the size of this changing? The sum of, that's one. Increased by, more than, total, added to. Let's write some of those down. And so we're going to do the same thing for subtraction and or other two operations. All right, so for subtraction, can you think of some words that we can use? Yes, you can. Let's get some down. All right, so for subtraction, perhaps minus, that's a pretty popular one. The difference of, and I'm sure you don't want me to have to write down all of these, so I'll read them out or I'll say them to you. Decreased by, fewer than, less than, subtracted from. These are all words that represent subtraction if you see them in a sentence. So for example, I have 20 CDs less than you, then I have, this is you is y, and I have 20 less than you. Subtract. It's like magic. All right, and so for multiplication, let's think of a few words. I'll write some of them down and then I'll say some others. So times something times something else, the product of something and something else, the product of this and that, multiply, multiplied by, well, that's kind of obvious, right? This multiplied by that, and of, this is a super important one. Super important, you'll see it a lot later. For example, a half of 10 means a half times 10. And that's so important to remember. All right, and divided, division. We have some words, but not as much, funny enough. The quotient of is a very important one. The quotient of is a very important one. So I'll write that down. And then divided by, of course, divided into. So some popular ones that you really need to know, the sum of, the difference of, product, and quotient of. Those are super important, but the others are important too. So with that, now we're supposed to be able to translate words to phrases, math words to English phrases, and vice versa. So good luck, have fun, and I will see you soon.